Standard 10, Unit 2.4, The Pulley, George Herbert. This poem exhibits a strange but two-way relationship between God and his worshippers. Though God has showered upon his worshippers all his blessings, somewhere he holds them up with a pulley drawn to be grateful to him in all their endeavors. The pulley shows how God lifts man towards himself with the pulley of restlessness. George Herbert (1593–1633) was a Welsh poet, orator, and priest of the Church of England. He wrote religious poems with a lot of imagery and conceits. His poetry is associated with the writings of the metaphysical poets, and he is recognized as one of the foremost British devotional lyricists. He was born into an artistic and wealthy family and largely raised in England. Explanation of the poem The Pulley. We shall first read the first stanza. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by, let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's riches which dispersed lie contract into a span. The difficult words in this stanza, riches, wealth, bounties, or treasures of the earth, dispersed is scattered, contract is collect together, and span is a small space. Here in this stanza, the poet says that at the time when God first created man, when God first made man, he had a glass of blessings standing by. He thought that he would be generous and shower on man all the gifts possible, pour on man all the gifts possible. God intended that all the treasures of the earth, the world's riches, the wealth bounties, which lay dispersed, which lay scattered, should be collected and concentrated, collect together, that is contract, should be collected and concentrated in the small space, in the span that God had created, which was man. So strength first made a way, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. When almost all was out, God made a stay, perceiving that alone of all his treasures, rest in the bottom lay. Here in this stanza, the poet tells us the first gift God gave man was strength. It was followed by beauty, wisdom, honor, and pleasure. When all the gifts had been bestowed on man, God stopped a while. God made a stay, and he noticed. Perceiving is noticing, becoming conscious of. So God noticed that of all the treasures, only one gift remained at the bottom of the glass, and that was rest. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he would adore my gifts instead of me, and rest in nature, not the God of nature. So both should losers be. The difficult words in this stanza, bestow on means give as a gift to, jewel, precious, valuable thing. Here it stands for contentment or rest. Adore is love very much. So in this stanza, God said to himself that if he bestowed on his creation man, he would bestow him the precious and valuable gift, that is rest. He would gift man rest, then man would love and worship only the gifts of nature and would not love the God who has created all the things in nature. Thus, both God and man would end up as losers. Yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness. Let him be rich and weary, that at last, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast. The difficult words in this stanza: repining restlessness, the phrase continuous anxiety due to dissatisfaction. Weary, the meaning of this word is very tired. Toss, here it means bring or throw close. In this stanza, the poet tells us that God let man retain all the other gifts, but at the same time, he left man restless and continually anxious and dissatisfied, but keep them with repining restlessness. So he left man restless and dissatisfied. He thought that man should be rich with the abundance of gifts, but he should always remain tired and restless. God reasoned that only then, at the end, if goodness does not lead man back to God, goodness that God has done to man, if that goodness man does not repay to God, then sheer tiredness or fatigue would draw man back to God's heart. The figures of speech in the poem The Pulley. Metaphor. The example is a glass of blessings. It is a metaphor because the sum of attributes or qualities given to man are implicitly or indirectly compared to a glass of blessing. The second figure of speech is a repetition. The line is, and rest in nature, not the God of nature. The word nature is repeated for poetic effect. The third figure of speech, alliteration. The line is, keep them with repining restlessness. Sound of R. R in repining and R in restlessness. Sound of R is repeated for poetic effect. There's an inversion also in this poem. Inversion is the figure of speech. The lines are, let us, said he, and the second line is, rest in the bottom lay. Now, what is an inversion? When the words are not in the correct prose order. So we take the first line, let us, said he. The correct prose order is, let us, he said. And the second line, rest in the bottom lay, that's also an inversion. The correct prose order is, rest lay in the bottom. Homework to be done. What did God's glass of blessings contain? What would the human being do if God gifted him with rest? What does God want in return from man for the gifts he has bestowed upon him? Why did God withhold the gift of rest from man? Besides those gifts given in the poem, what other gifts has God blessed mankind with? Enlist them. Write a critical appreciation of the poem in paragraph format.